The Albatross by Scott Lauder.
For hours, the police had gone up and down the beach searching for the body, but they had found nothing. Molly looked toward the trail that led over the hill. One after the other, the officers disappeared over the top of the hill. The last to vanish were the two paramedics who were carrying the empty stretcher. In front of her, staring out at the ocean, her father stood on the beach in his gray harbor police shirt and pants. The hat that he was wearing made him seem even taller and thinner. "I'm sorry, Dad," Molly finally said, taking his hand and looking up at him. She didn't know what else to say. There had been a body. She had seen an old man lying dead on the sand. But now that body wasn't there. It had disappeared. It didn't make sense. "It's not your fault," he said. I haven't been there for you. Not really." He looked down at her. "Not after Mom died." His eyes were soft and kind. "Anyway, I was thinking of taking a few days off work. Going to the Big Apple." He smiled. "We could see a show and stay at Grandma and Grandpa's." Molly smiled too. Her father was born in Haven, but her mother came from New York, and her grandparents still lived there, in the same house on Riverside Drive that her mother was born in. She loved visiting the Big Apple, especially Broadway. She missed that. She also missed staying with her grandparents. Since her mother's death, she and her father hadn't stayed there once. But the reason for the trip wasn't hard to guess. It was because of today. She guessed that her father thought the body on the beach was a cry for attention, that she imagined the whole thing. She didn't blame him. She squeezed his hand. "Listen, I have to go back to the office," he said gently. "But I'll be back home around 5, okay?" "Yeah," said Molly, nodding. "Okay." "You got practice today?" Molly shook her head. Haven High was district soccer champion, and Molly was the girls' team captain. "That was yesterday," she said. "Yesterday," her father nodded. "Of course." "What about the watch?" Molly asked. "The watch?" Molly pulled the watch from the back pocket of her jeans. Her father glanced at it. With his hand on her shoulder, they turned around and began walking toward the start of the trail. "Well," said her father, "I guess somebody dropped it. Why don't you keep it for now, and we'll put an ad in Marty's store window." Molly turned the watch over in her hands. "The inscription is in Russian or something," she said. Her father, however, wasn't paying attention. Instead, he was looking out at the ocean. He was still looking there when Molly saw the falcon from earlier in the day. Now it was just above the top of the hill in front of them. "Dad," she said. But as soon as she said it, the bird dropped out of sight and was gone. "Hmm?" asked her father, turning toward her. "What?" "Oh, nothing," replied Molly. They walked on in silence. Her father put his arm around Molly and pulled her close to him. "Is Aunt Ellie coming over today?" Molly asked. Aunt Ellie was her father's older sister. Her father didn't like Molly being in the house by herself. Too young, he said. So Aunt Ellie usually came later in the afternoon and stayed a few hours. Her father nodded. "But, Dad, I'm 16. I don't need a babysitter." Her father smiled. "You're still my little girl." That made Molly want to scream, but instead she ran ahead to the top of the hill. In the distance, above the sound of the waves and the wind, the falcon's call rang out. As soon as she got home, Molly went up to her room, with Pip following closely behind her. On her bed, she read the name on the back of the watch again. Leveros. She thought again about the body on the beach. She had no idea why, but she felt there was a connection. She looked at Pip. The body's disappearance and the words on the watch were of no interest to him at all. Instead, he was curled up at the foot of the bed, his eyes already beginning to close. She smiled. Her Aunt Ellie was not coming until later in the afternoon, and Molly didn't have school or soccer practice to go to. She had plenty of time to do a little research before she had breakfast and did some chores around the house. She switched on her laptop. She typed the words from the back of the watch into Google Translator. A moment later, the translation appeared. She repeated the words slowly. "To my darling Leveros, Levi, Andreas. All my love, Kay." The watch was a present from someone. It meant that the old man might be someone's grandfather, someone's uncle, or even someone's husband. Lieutenant Daniel Mundy had just spent 2 useless hours on a beach near his home looking for a dead body. After the search, he had returned to the office and written a report. Then he had gone to the police cafeteria for a late lunch. He was having coffee, his first of the day, when his boss came to his table. "A cargo ship has just come in, Dan," his boss had said. In reply, Mundy had felt like saying, "Get someone else to check it." But he hadn't. It was part of his job. Now it was 2:40 p.m., and he was standing below deck, documents in one hand, flashlight in the other, carrying out his usual inspection of cargo. But a voice in his head was growing louder and louder all the time. Something about the hold and this man's behavior was not right. He turned to the man who was escorting him. "How many TVs are you carrying?" he asked, switching on the flashlight. "Sorry?" asked the captain. The noise from the ship's engines and the generators was loud, and it was difficult to hear anyone unless they shouted. Lieutenant Mundy repeated his question and shined the flashlight through the door of the hold. Box after box greeted him as he moved his flashlight around the room. 815, the captain replied, standing stiffly at the door. Lieutenant Mundy nodded slowly. "That's all," the captain added. There it was again, something in the man's voice that was odd, thought Lieutenant Mundy. "I see," he said, switching off his flashlight. Lieutenant Mundy stepped past the Albatross's captain. "Are you sure this is all you have?" he asked, taking the customs documents from his pocket. He kept his eyes fixed on the man's heavy face. "You've seen all of the ship," replied the captain. "That doesn't mean I've seen everything, does it?" Lieutenant Mundy asked. He smiled, but the captain did not return it. He's nervous, Lieutenant Mundy thought, but the question is, Why? He began filling in the documents. Beside the word cargo, he wrote TVs. Next to number, he wrote 815. "So, how long will you be staying in Haven?" he asked. "A few days. 2, perhaps." Lieutenant Mundy nodded. He studied the captain's face. Experience was a good teacher. After 20 years of working in Haven Harbor Police, Dan Mundy had met all kinds of people. Sometimes the lies they told were for stupid reasons, but most of the time, people lied because they were breaking the law. "How many are in the crew?" he asked. The captain stood as still as a statue. "Myself and 3 others, but as you probably know, the engineer was sadly lost." Lieutenant Mundy stared at the man. "What did you say?" he asked. "We lost a man at sea. I've already reported it to the Coast Guard." "When?" asked Lieutenant Mundy. Last night, around 3 a.m. When Lieutenant Mundy had arrived at the office that morning, it had been quiet. Today was Memorial Day, and reports from other agencies, such as the Coast Guard, took longer than usual to reach his desk. Even so, he was angry. He should have known about this sooner. Pictures of Molly telling him over and over that she had seen a body on the beach filled his head. "I see. I'm sorry to hear that. Did you know him well?" "No," replied the captain. "Hardly at all. Our regular engineer became sick just before the voyage started, so bad luck, eh?" "What was the new engineer's name?" Leveros Andreas," replied the captain. "But we called him Levi. Nice man. Very sad." Lieutenant Mundy nodded. "Was he young?" The captain shook his head. "He was an old guy, Greek. I gave the details already." "Right," said Lieutenant Mundy. "I'm sure you did. Well, I think everything is fine here. Can you just sign this, please?" He passed the customs documents to the captain. The captain signed and returned them. "I hope you have a pleasant time in Haven," Lieutenant Mundy said. A faint smile crossed the captain's face. Molly reached for the home phone and picked it up. "Hi, honey," said Molly's father into his cell phone. "You busy?" "No, just making dinner. Aunt Ellie is here." "Great. Listen, the reason I'm calling is I want to apologize about earlier. I don't know what's going on, but I think you were right." "About what?" asked Molly. "I think you did see someone on the beach. In fact, I'm sure of it. I just wanted to say I was sorry." "It's okay," Molly interrupted. "It was kind of weird. I mean, 1 minute there was a body on the beach, and the next minute it's gone." "Yeah, well, anyway, I just wanted to say I was sorry, okay?" "Okay," replied Molly. "By the way, did you say the person that you saw was pretty old?" "Yeah," replied Molly. "Probably near 70. I mean, with his gray hair and—" "Right. That's all I wanted to know. See you later." Her father was about to end the call, but Molly stopped him. "Dad, wait," she said. "Do you think the watch belonged to him?" "What watch?" he asked. "The one I found on the beach this morning. You know, the one with the writing on the back. I found out what the inscription said. It's Greek. The watch belonged to someone called Andreas."